Hey everybody, Dr. Dave Marquis here, and I had some things that I wanted to share with you related to traumatic brain injuries. We work with individuals that have had injuries to their brain from a variety of different causes, and there's some commonalities there and some things that people can do to help themselves out of the process. The thing that I wanted to focus on today has to do with some of the things that you can evaluate relative to visual tracking and what the eyes can tell you about an individual's injury. Traumatic brain injuries can happen for a variety of reasons. It can happen actually from a contusion where you hit your head, but it can also happen from chemical events. People can be exposed to things in their environment, in their diet, viruses, even emotionally traumatic events can actually create a change in how your brain functions. So when we're evaluating this, one of the quick tools that I like to use is visual tracking. You see, our eyes innervate 80% of our cortex, and as such, how each lobe works dictates how efficiently and smoothly the eyes move. Vision is broken down into three fundamental categories when you're looking at movement and how well that's functioning. One is called a pursuit, one is called a saccade, and another one is fixation, or sometimes called convergence. The ability to carry out a pursuit is just the eye going from point A to point B, and then a saccade is quickly going back to point A again. And then fixation is the ability for the eyes to converge and then relax and dilate again. Those don't sound like really important things, but they really are when you look at the magnitude of what not being able to do that indicates may have happened to a brain. For example, for me to track something that's moving from my field of view on my right to my left, my cerebellum over here is going to have to let my eye release so that it can move. The mid part of my cerebellum is going to keep it smooth so it doesn't get all higgy-jiggy as it moves across the field of view. My frontal lobe is actually going to allow the eye to be pushed to the other side. And then the cerebellum is going to stop it again when it gets to the other side. And then coming back quickly, the temporal-parietal lobe is going to push it back, and that cerebellum is going to do the same thing. So you can see it's a really involved event where the brain is tapping into multiple regions simultaneously in milliseconds to allow for smoothness of pursuit and saccade. Well, what does that mean in real life? Well, if an individual has poor ability to converge, they're typically going to have poor focus. Their ability to pay attention is going to be compromised. They might also have a shorter temper than you would like to be around. They might have a difficult time processing information, particularly if you're giving them instructions that have more than one thing that you're saying. They might pick up the first and the last thing that you said but miss the middle part. Or if they're reading, they might have a difficult time tracking, and so by the time they get to the third line, they're like, what the heck did I just read? And they have to go back and start over again. And it can be really frustrating for people to process information when they kind of get muddled up in that type of brain fog. The ability for the hemispheres to talk has a lot to do with saccadic movement. So your ability to see someone's face and remember their name, or see a word in your mind and have it come out your mouth, give it meaning. The ability for somebody to track things fast enough so that they're getting information in real time rather than saying, wait, can you say that again? Can you do that a little more slowly? So you can learn a lot about what's going wrong with an individual both by their symptoms and by doing a visual test. I have on my screen here some samples of two different tests. One is an individual that has a little bit of compromise, and that's the one on the right here. But you can see that it's generally pretty smooth in overall movement. And I put these side by side because this next one is someone who has recently had a concussion. And you can see the dramatic change in the smoothness of how the visual tracking and pursuit and saccade is being carried out. Now, you can actually take this type of an individual where their pursuits and saccades are less than efficient, and you can improve it through exercise. And so some of the exercises that we have people do, I'm just going to give you a very simple one. I call it the ×1, ×2, and ×3. And all you need are thumbs and an eyeball or two. So turning from the side, it would just look like this, or face on, it'll look like this. ×1, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move my thumbs with my head, and we're going to rotate from side to side, allowing for head rotation, tracking those thumbs. That would be a pursuit. Now ×2, I'm going to do another pursuit, but this one I'm going to keep my head steady, and I'm just going to let the eyes track the thumbs without any cervical rotation. So my head stays still, but my eyes follow it. ×3, I'm actually going to rotate my head the opposite direction while I'm still allowing the thumbs to move and the eyes to follow it. So you can see that I'm just using my periphery vision as I'm going side to side like that. Those three exercises can be made a little bit more difficult by doing it standing, and then adding one more task where it's called tandem, where you actually put one foot in front of the other while you're doing the same activity. You'll tend to find that the cerebellum, or the hemisphere that is the weakest or that needs the most work, when that foot is standing in front of the other foot, you'll tend to be a little less stable and you might fall to the side. For example, I know that myself, I tend to need a little bit more work on my right cerebellum, and when I do tandem gait with my right foot in front, I tend to be a little bit more unstable as my head starts rotating. Those are the things that you want to know about yourself so that you can work them and strengthen them. The more that you do activities like this, you can actually change behavioral things. You can change your ability to focus, your ability to process information, your ability to read. All of these things can be improved as you strengthen what your eyes aren't able to do on a test like this. That's just a sample of some exercises that an individual can do if they've had a head injury. Realize that the eyes really are a window to the brain. Simple thing to evaluate. A lot of different functional medicine doctors and functional optometrists and ophthalmologists have this type of evaluation that you can tap into. And I encourage people to do so because these are exercises that you could do at home and really strengthen your brain power that you want to do in bite-sized pieces. Because if you do it for a long period of time, it actually fatigues the brain. So you want to do like 1 to 2 minutes of this at a time maximum, but maybe do that a few times a day for the biggest payout. I hope those are helpful tips. Be well.